Good evening, everyone. Regular meeting of the Salem City Council is being held tonight in person, Thursday, March 27, 2025 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of transacting any and all business. Notice of this meeting was posted on March 25th, 2025 at 11:11 a.m. This meeting is being recorded and is live on SATV and Zoom unless technological issues interrupt these transmissions. Council is absent, none. Council Presnewski presiding. Councilor Jeff Cohen moved to dispense with the reading of the record of the previous meeting. All those in favor? Thank you. Yeah, I request that everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Stott.
Which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Salem City Council honors that this land is Nomkeg, a fishing place where generations of Nomkeg people from the Pawtucket Band of the Massachusetts tribe lived and passed through for centuries. We acknowledge that this is unceded indigenous land and also acknowledge the Massachusetts tribe who continue to honor and hold this land into the present. Salem City Council is committed to having ongoing meaningful dialogue with the indigenous peoples who have presence in Salem in order to dismantle the legacies of oppressions and inequities that persist today. Public testimony is not to exceed 15 minutes. There's not a public hearing or question and answer period, and sign-up must occur 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Tonight we have 4 speakers. We have 2 in council chambers, and I believe we have 2 on Zoom. So we'll begin with those in council chambers. Mr. Alejandro Alvarez, please. And you have 3 minutes each to.
Yes, sir. I'll make it as quick as possible. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Thank you for having me. Alejandro Alvarez, 12 Pratt Street. So last week there was a Harbor Light meeting, with LifeBridge, and there was a couple things that I wanted to clear up just to make sure. I know there was a lot of people giving pledge and saying how wonderful and how LifeBridge has been working with the neighborhood. Since 10 years ago, that hasn't happened. Recently, there has been some movement on that to try and actually come together and figure out what we can do to work together. That connection wasn't there before, so I just want to make that clear. The other thing about the senior housing that everybody was bringing up during that meeting was actually something that can't be done unless it goes through the state legislature, which is Chapter 91, which is making senior housing on 12 at the actual park on High Street. Even Jason himself said that they wouldn't pursue that because it wouldn't be worth it, and it actually wouldn't happen. So I just want to make sure that people understand what's going on. It was very, very difficult, especially living in the neighborhood. Everybody that was speaking, whether they live in Salem or not, maybe they were from somewhere else, everybody thinks it's a wonderful idea. The problem being is that when you live in the neighborhood and you have to deal with everybody, you have to deal with the park, Needles, Raleigh Plaza, it becomes the residents' problem. We've talked to Harbor LifeBridge about what can they do, and it's been said that they actually, once the grown adults leave, that they can't do anything about it outside their property. So now it becomes the police problem, now becomes the residents' problem. And this is what we've been dealing with for 15 years. We understand we need to help people. We understand that. But instead of building such a big building, why don't we take the money and resources that they were going to get, and why don't we fix what they have already and figure out a way to make it better for everybody in the neighborhood? It's very disingenuous hearing, oh, this is great. This is a wonderful project. It's going to be awesome. But then, everybody gets to go to their house on School Street. They get to go to their house at Forest River Park. They don't deal with these problems. I'd love, if you want, any one of you can come live at my house for a week. I'd be more than happy to, maybe 2 weeks, a month if you want. Free rent, that's fine. But I would love for everybody to see the problems that we're actually dealing with, because as a neighborhood and as the association, nobody listens to us. And that's why everybody's so up in arms and upset about about this, because everybody keeps pushing us, because we don't have lawyers like Chestnut Street. We don't have lawyers like other locations. We're trying to do this as a resident neighborhood. And what's happening is people are selling their homes. They're pushing out. They said, I'm done dealing with this, because it's already, if you look at the meetings, it sounds like a done deal. You know, even construction, how is construction in such a dense area going to be? There was questions about where the dumpster is going to be. That's probably going to be on High Street Circle, which is at the top, which means everybody on Pratt Street and High Street are going to be impeded by this. Even the construction phase, just a minute, I apologize. Just to say, the construction phase being built on these buildings, right? It's going to impede the whole neighborhood, and it's not fair. I mean, you can say life isn't fair. The other thing I want to make a point is,
Alejandro, your 3 minutes are up, and you're just going to be impeding on other people's ability. You can come back and comment again.
Okay.
On another day. Sorry about that.
I have one sentence. I apologize.
Go ahead. One more sentence. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I actually spoke with the gentleman that owned the Sylvania lot on Boston Street, and he would actually be willing to talk about negotiations about selling that land. So thank you.
Okay. Next. Paige Curtin.
Hi, Paige Curtin, 50 St. Peter Street. I'm here tonight to speak in support of an act requiring broker fees be paid by the party who solicits their services. It just makes logical sense, especially when you say it out loud. But I've definitely heard opposition to this measure claim that landlords would then just pass the fees back to the renters indirectly by raising rent. Obviously, I hope that that wouldn't happen, but I'd also say that for people who live paycheck to paycheck, as many renters do, a monthly increase of $100 or even a couple $100 is still much more doable than a lump sum upfront of a few $1,000s. So I hope the council adopts this measure and just continues to fight the good fight for more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. In Zoom, we have Justin Bates. Justin?
Oh, can y'all hear me?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, all. Thank you for the time tonight to express my support for the home rule petition relative to the broker fees. I think Governor said it, Healy said it herself, broker fees are an unfair cost for renters. As a city with a near majority, if not a majority of renters, this is a question of fairness. Shifting the cost of broker fees, which pays for a landlord's expenses, whether it be legal compliance, marketing of the unit, screening, move-in arrangements, shifting these costs to our landlords is a step in creating a more accessible housing market and puts the burden of cost on the folks who hired for the service there. And to the question of whether Salem need not pursue this legislation because it's moving through Beacon Hill, redundancy is okay. And as we know, nothing in the State House is a given. So let's join our neighbors, the Cambridges, the Somervilles, and support this. And I will just urge our councilors not to rest on incremental progress. Eliminating broker fees will lower the upfront cost barrier, like was just mentioned. But until our rental housing supply matches our demand for rental housing, landlords can still and probably will still charge what they can get away with charging, even if that means rolling the broker fee into rent. But please accept my full bridled support for this order here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steve Kapantis. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. Steve Kapantis, Wisteria Street. I want to talk to you about two matters. One before you tonight regarding the testing of our wastewater for avian flu. Look, I think it's a great idea, right? The sooner we learn things, the better. However, this is a $25,000 proposal, and what wasn't included was any competitive quotations for this work. There are at least a dozen companies that perform this type of work. I would think before we spend $25,000, we would make sure that we're getting a fair deal. And also with that, why is Salem footing this bill completely, right? This is the East Essex sewage treatment. Shouldn't we be asking the other communities, and this could be a co-share? I would hope that you find these answers before you just spend $25,000. Next is the city website. It continues to be a complete shit show. You can't find
Language, please.
data.
Mr. Capantis, please watch your language.
You can't find data. I'm sorry, there's nothing else, other way to explain it. You can't find data. It has led to cancellations of meetings. We've had 5 meetings canceled in this past week. I mean, people who are going in front of the ZBA have their lawyers, architects, contractors lined up, and then that meeting now has to be canceled because the chair can't figure out how to use the website, or there's website glitches. This needs to be corrected. This is costing taxpayer money and costing individuals money. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearings.
We have an order from National Grid to relocate one jointly owned pole from 4244 Highland Avenue to the corner of the driveway at 40 Rear Highland Avenue.
Appearing in favor? Please state your name.
Sabita Mahabir Shihi, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. We're relocating this in order to bring three-phase service to the property at 40 Rear.
Thank you. Anyone else appearing in favor? Anyone in opposition? Under discussion. Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. We discussed this right before the meeting. There was no marking on the sidewalk for where the new pole will be. So that was most of what my question was. That's a driveway for an elderly housing building. And I'm really concerned about the placement of the pole and making sure it's in a safe location for those accessing the driveway. So that is my big concern. Please keep that in mind. I know you're bringing it to the corner. That corner there is a little bit, it's not marked very well. It looks like there's some growth of the driveway, which also concerns me towards the sidewalk. So I just need to make sure that it's in the right location, that it's going to be safe, that no one's going to hit it. That's my big concern.
I'll speak to the contractor about that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. I move to close the public hearing.
Councilor Morcillo moves to close the public hearing. All in favor? All opposed? Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. I move that this be granted.
Councilor Morcillo moves that this move be granted. All those in favor? All those opposed? Vote carries.
Thank you.
Appointments and reappointments.
We have held from the last meeting the mayor's appointments of the following with terms to expire.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Presinski. I move for confirmation by roll call vote.
Councilor Stott moves for confirmation by roll call vote. Under discussion.
Thank you, President Presinski. Thank you to Councilor Varela for letting me take this one this evening. I saw there were 2 Ward 6ers on there, and I just wanted to express my gratitude towards both and say thank you. So Marie Feldmanova from Orange Street will be joining the Board of Health. Marie is a school nurse here in the city of Salem, and I know I personally am very appreciative of her experience, her expertise, and she has helped guide me through many questions personally. So I'm excited to see her add her voice to the Board of Health. And also we have Francis Murphy Jr. joining the Cemetery Commission this evening as well. Another great neighborhood voice who's very familiar with Green Lawn Cemetery and Murphy Funeral Home as well. So I'm just want to express my gratitude towards both for volunteering their time with the city of Salem.
Any further discussion? Under Councilor Stott's motion to confirm this by roll call vote, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Watson Felt,
Yes.
Council Varela,
Yes.
Council Stott,
Yes.
Council Morcillo,
Yes.
Council Merkel,
Yes.
Council Jerslow,
Yes.
Council Harvey,
Yes.
Council Hapworth,
Yes.
Council Davis,
Yes.
Council Cohen,
Yes.
and Council Prosnowski.
Yes. On the appointments of Marie Belbanova and Francis Murphy, count as 11 yeas, no nays. Matter carries. Council Council Stott.
Thank you, President Brzezinski. I'd like to move to suspend the rules. If Ms. Filbanova and Mr. Murphy would like to address the council.
Seeing no objection.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to thank you for confirming my appointment. So thank you to the mayor for my nomination. I'm very excited to be able to contribute to the city and donate some of my time after making Salem my home for the last 14 years. And hopefully continue for a while longer. Thank you.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you again for your confirmation and your support in me joining the Cemetery Commission, and to the mayor's office as well as for their nomination. The city of Salem is a very special place to me. Green Lawn Cemetery primarily having a very close, near and dear place to my heart, just from a professional sense, but growing up in North Salem, I spent a lot of time there as a kid growing up with my family, and now having a young one myself, being back in the community, it's a very special place. Green Lawn Cemetery is also the same cemetery that my father was buried in back in February of last year. Like I said, it's a place that I truly do care about as it impacts not just myself and my family, but also the greater community of the city of Salem. And so I look forward to being a part of a wonderful commission of people who care about the city and contributing my part to already an existing group. So thank you.
Other appointments and reappointments.
We have the mayor's reappointments of the following with their terms to expire.
Council Varela.
Thank you, President Brzezinski. I move that Hannah Gathman Public Art Commission, Fred Atkins, Salem Harbor Port Authority, Timothy Norton of the Education Committee, and Kelly Tyler Lewis of the Historical Commission be moved and be held under the rules. And I would like to divide the question of Milo Martinez to refer this to Committee on Government Services. And I'd like to take Veronica Miranda and withdraw the reappointment at this time.
Council Varela moves to split the question. Any objection? Seeing none. Council Varela.
Thank you, President Brzezinski. I'll start with the withdrawal. The withdrawal has to do with General Law 121B. It seems that after Ms. Miranda looked into the appointment, that there was an issue with how it was procedurally done because Ms. Miranda did take over the appointment of Sue Kirby, and we have to make sure that we go through the proper channel when it comes to the tenant associations and choosing the tenant rep. So at this time, the mayor's going to be withdrawing. And when it comes to Mr. Martinez, I feel like we have to have a discussion in Government Services going forward about this appointment. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Watson-Feld.
Thank you, President Brzezinski. I just want to take a quick minute to, just for the public's awareness that the public has engaged in this conversation around the reappointment of one of the folks on this list. The council has received that and is now there's a motion on the table to further this conversation into a committee. We hear a lot that there's not a lot of faith or confidence in the processes of appointing, reappointing, confirming members of our boards and commissions. And I take issue with that because although I acknowledge it's a difficult process to navigate, it's uncomfortable sometimes, I do think it is a public process. And if folks have issues or concerns, the intention of the entire process is that they engage in that way, right? And so that we can therefore be responsible in our response and whether or not we confirm or deny them. So this is it has come up a number of times in conversations, even very recently, around whether or not, the boards are stacked, right, quote unquote, or the boards aren't independent because they're all appointed by the mayor and the city council just pushes everybody through the rubber stamp concept. I've heard it 1,000 times, but I just wanted to pause here and throw a flag in the field and say, look, this is how the process works, right? You have an issue, you have a concern, you raise it, we'll deal with it, and then we'll do what's best for the city or what we believe is best for the city, right? According to our consciences. So that's all. Just wanted to offer it that this is the process working, and I appreciate the public engagement to this point. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Hepworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Agreed that we should scrutinize all these nominations, and this is why it's being held under the rules. We've got extra time to reach out to these candidates or these candidates for reappointment and have discussions with them and address concerns. If there was a complaint that came in, then that's the time to ask that question. I think we set a dangerous precedent by hauling board members before committee to question them about a single complaint that came in. I would prefer to see this be held under the rules, and then folks can make their vote the way they want to make the vote next week, but I'm not supportive of sending this to committee.
Councilor Watson.
Yeah, thanks. Point of clarification, I guess. Sending to committee to me did not necessarily imply we were dragging Mr. Martinez in front of us for conversation. It tells me we're going to have a dialogue about it in committee if that's the will of the body. So is the intent to invite Mr. Martinez into the subcommittee? I do agree with Councilor Hepworth. I think that's a different kind of meeting than I was anticipating.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Yes, at this time, that would be the intent. Not only has there been a complaint, and that's not why we're looking to discuss this with Mr. Martinez. I know Mr. Martinez has been on the Historical Commission for a few years now, and some of the things that have happened on the Historical Commission I find a little problematic, and I would like to get a little more clarification about that.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, President. I have to agree that I think it's a little, to bring him in to answer questions about the board is inappropriate. He's one member of the board. If we have questions about the board, we should be bringing in the board and the staff person for the board. If you have questions about regulations that they are ruling under, you need to bring that to them. I don't believe that that's the proper role of the city council. I think that when we bring volunteers into a committee meeting and question a decision that they made, that's dangerous. I read the email and the complaint, and I think that we all have the ability in the next 2 weeks to reach out and to have a discussion with Mr. Martinez and come to our own conclusion. I agree. I think this is a little dangerous, and I think we need to be more respectful of our volunteers who spend their time.
Councilor Varela.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Seeing the will of the body, I would like to withdraw that motion and hold Mr. Martinez under the rules as well.
So to be clear, Councilor Varela moves that 5 individuals be held under the rules. Hannah Gaffman for the Public Art Commission, Fred Atkins for the Salem Harbor Port Authority, Timothy Norton for Scholarship Education Committee, Kelly Tyler Lewis for the Historical Commission, and Milo Martinez for the Historical Commission. All those in favor to be held under the rules? All those opposed? That carries. Communications from the mayor.
We've been ordered that $63,000 be transferred from receipts reserved Charter Street and appropriate to capital improvement fund for costs associated with repairs and improvements to the old burying point and witch trials memorial.
Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I move for suspension of the rules.
Councilor Merkel moves for suspension of the rules. Seeing no objection, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Councilor Merkel moves for adoption under discussion.
Thank you. The Charter Street Welcome Center and Gift Shop, which is really nice. I recommend people stop in and check it out. This was partly established to support and maintain the grounds of the old burying point and the Witch Trials Memorial. And these funds will be for repairing paths. 11 historic headstones need repair and attention, and also for bush and tree pruning as well. And the request came from Patricia O'Brien from the Parks and Rec.
Any further discussion? On Council Merkel's motion to transfer $63,000 from receipts reserved Charter Street and appropriated to the Capital Improvement Fund. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further communications.
We have an order that the sum of $53,784.93 be appropriated in the retirement stabilization buyback account for a Salem Fire Department employee.
Council Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnewski. I move for suspension of the rules.
Council Merkel moves for suspension. Seeing no objection. Council Merkel.
Thank you. I move for adoption.
Council Merkel moves for adoption. Under discussion.
This is a contractual obligation, and I just want to express thank you to Mr. Jellison for his service to the Salem Fire Department and wish him well in his retirement.
Any further discussion? I too know Mr. Jellison, who gave much of his lifetime to the Salem Fire Department and to the community and to his friends and fellow firefighters. So I wish him a very happy retirement. On Council Merkel's motion to move for adoption for the sum of $53,784.93 be appropriated in the retirement stabilization buyback to the Salem Fire Department employee. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further communications.
We have an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to Chapter 46, Section 38, relative to water management plan and use restriction.
Councilor Davis. Sorry, Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Hapworth. Who was at this? Go to Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs. Under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is bringing us into compliance with state regulations. It's setting about some definitions for non-essential and essential water use during drought times, and giving some authority to the city engineer to enforce these violations and potentially even shut off water. But I do want this is the first many of us are seeing of this, so I want to put this in committee so we can have a discussion about it. As I understand, this is also under a little bit of a deadline for a number of communities for early April, but I still think this warrants a discussion in committee, and we'll try to get it out as quick as possible.
Any further discussion? Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, President. I fully support establishing a tiered common sense water restriction during periods of drought, and I look forward to the discussions in committee to iron out the details and hear from the public. Salem gets its water from our reservoir in Danvers, which is filled from the Ipswich River during the winter and early spring when water is more plentiful and would otherwise flow into the ocean. We usually have plenty of water even during drought conditions, unless we have fires. So yes, for peace of mind, and to comply with the law, by the way, we should be conserving water during drought conditions. Peace of mind that if there is a fire somewhere in Salem, we have an adequate amount of water to not only fight the fire, but to continue to supply fresh water to all residents. And we should and must act as good citizens of this planet and work to conserve water during times of drought. We need to be more aware of how conditions in our region are threatening the supply of natural resources and modify our behavior accordingly. It doesn't make sense that just because we have the stored water supply today, we should have no constraints in its use. Green lawns in summer, all summer long, are a vanity, not a necessity. And sparkling clean cars, boats, and washed pavement is also a vanity and not a necessity. Education for every resident on the benefits of water conservation measures during periods of drought is vitally important, and I hope the city engineer will include details of an education campaign when this comes before the committee. And I can't end this comment before saying that outdoor open fires and fire pits are prohibited in Salem every single day, but especially during drought conditions. The use of fire pits and open fires bring unnecessary risk. Most of the state is currently in a level 3 critical drought status. The rest is in level 2, a significant drought status. This is an alarmingly early start for a drought, and as soon as temperatures rise and the sun is more direct, fire warnings will begin. And I do just want to show you a picture of the drought map. The dark orange is us. It is the level 3, and it's almost the entire state. So this is really serious stuff that we have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to ensure that this is co-posted with the committee of the whole.
Any further discussion? On Councilor Hapworth's motion that this matter be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. All those in favor? Opposed? Matter carries. Mayor's informational page, none. Motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Prasnewski. City Council, March 27, 2025, ordered that the Public Health, Safety, and Environment Committee meet to discuss current snow removal practices, policies, and challenges for the city, as well as a discussion of enforcement and a review of existing ordinances and related fines. The committee shall invite to the discussion the Director of Public Works and Transportation or their appointees, the enforcement officer for the City of Salem, and other representatives as needed. And I move for adoption.
Councilor Thompson moves for adoption. Adoption under discussion.
Thank you, President Prasnewski. I don't want to jinx things because I remember the April Fool's snowstorm, but we're officially in spring season. So I think it's a good time to have a postmortem conversation on snow removal practices, policies, and challenges in the city. In February 2020, there was an excellent joint meeting with the now named Transportation Commission and the now named Bicycling and Shared Path Advisory Committee, as well as the Commission on Disabilities. This was also attended by a handful of counselors and all department heads, and a few great things came as a result of that meeting. The snow@salem.com email and reporting processes, dedicated priority sidewalks and paths in the city, and a few other items. Having an open dialogue to share and collect feedback is always a benefit to the city. And looking back at this most recent winter, which I have to say was slightly snowier than the previous few winters, I know myself as a ward councillor received many messages of frustration from areas both under the responsibilities of the city and residents and businesses. As we all know, we do have an ordinance regarding removal of snow and ice from sidewalks and who is responsible for that, as well as fines that are incurred if it is not completed in a certain time frame. Now, the fines are not to serve as a revenue generating stream, although there is a cost to issue and report those fines, but to help achieve the ultimate goal of safe passageways around the city. That said, I do feel that those fines, which are a mere $25 up to $50, should be looked at and discussed. I'm not convinced that residential and commercial properties should be fined at the same rate as they are now. I would be willing to bet that if you asked each ward councillor here to name one problem stretch they have in their ward, could name at least one pretty quickly, I would probably have to tell all of you to stop talking because you would keep going. It's really easy. We all have those problem areas. I know I'll call one out right now. The public storage at the corner of Boston Street and Goodhue, since I've been a counselor, has been a problem area. And I know for a fact that it is cheaper for them to pay the fines than it is to hire a snow removal company. So I think that conversation needs to happen in public and hear those frustrations. I did reach out to our enforcement officer prior to the start of this to get an understanding of how many violation tickets have been issued, and was informed that the office this past season issued 117 snow ice violation tickets. The enforcement officer also noted some challenges that the office faced with some properties, and mostly it was immediate compliance. Most properties did comply once they were informed, either in person or by a violation ticket. So just by reading that challenge from her, I know I myself have many thoughts and ideas of how to proceed and improve that process. And I'm sure sure other members of the council, members of the public and the community, as well as department heads would have collective feedback as well. So I'm hoping we can discuss those ideas in committee and have another joint meeting to result in some movement forward and helping keep the city accessible and safe for all.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. Ironically, Councilor Stark called me literally about this minutes after I had spoken to the building commissioner. Fines won't fix it completely. There are, properties that spend way more than we're going to fine them. However, there's way too many instances where homeowners or property owners in general, businesses, are doing exactly what Councilor Stott said. And so I think it's really important that we do this. I think the building commissioner, rightfully so, feels that if she just had a little bit more in the toolbox, could enforce this a little bit better. And want to make sure that it's co-posted.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Stott's motion that this matter be placed into the Committee on Public Health, Safety, and Environment, co-posted with the Council of the Whole. All those in favor? Those opposed? Matter carries. For the motions, orders, and resolutions, Councilor Davis.
Thank you, President Prazuski. Order for a home rule petition relative to an act requiring broker fees be paid by the party who solicits a licensed broker. And I move to refer this to the Committee on Community and Economic Development.
Councilor Davis moves that this be moved to the Committee on Community and Economic Development under discussion.
Thank you, President Prazuski. I am hoping that we're able to join other communities such as Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, and Northampton that have passed very similar home rule petitions as to what's in front of us tonight. As a renter myself, I can attest that having to pay a broker's fee on top of first, last, and security, typically amounting in 4 months' rent, is very financially painful. I was able to speak with the chair and co-chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Felipe Zamberlini and Chris Maelstrom, who were both very supportive. And Felipe was able to offer a couple of supportive arguments, one of which was mentioned in public comment, which is that even if these fees are still passed on to renters in other ways, that easing that upfront burden so there's not exorbitant expenses for folks finding housing is still very significant. And putting these fees back on the landlord where they belong would increase the likelihood that we could see a lot of negotiation of these fees. I was also able to speak with our state representative, Manny Cruz, who's supportive of this being done statewide. And what he expressed to me is that cities and so far just cities passing this is very effective, for him and his advocacy at the state level, having more and more data points to point to of here's yet another city or town that has expressed a need and a want to fix the problem. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and hope that we can make this common sense move to protect renters. Thank you.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. I want to address some misinformation about this home rule petition. Last week, Councilor Davis called me, maybe called other councilors, and I asked if there was a rule attached to it. We said there wasn't, but there is. It's similar to other ones that have gone forward. We have both approved home rule petitions that have rules and some that haven't. And in many cases, if you don't have a rule, it's easier to get it approved. It also creates more of a universe that we can deliberate on when it comes back. For example, the fossil fuel, the condo conversion did not have rules attached. The other thing is that, Councilor Davis and I talked about this, the chances of the legislature approving a home rule petition when they are moving forward with a bill. And I don't actually feel that this is, as one of the, as Mr. Bates said in public comments, redundant. I'll tell you why. First of all, the House bill, which is House 449, that Rep. Wynn put forward and sponsored with many other people, and the Senate bill that Senator Edwards put forth on February 27th of this year, was referred by both parties, by both houses, to the Joint Committee on Consumer Protections and Professional Licenses. That is really important. That is a big step in the legislative process. Governor Healy has already come out and said that she would sign whatever bill came out of that conference. But I want to really talk about the problem I have with the language of this home rule petition. In my mind, with the housing crisis that we have, and hope everyone read the actual wording, the actual rule, which even though was passed by other communities before, my view is that this is not as pro-tenant, pro-renter has been expressed as much as the state legislation is. So let me give you an example. We have a housing crisis. Landlords typically in this time don't struggle to find tenants, but renters really have a hard time. And in many cases, the renter is the person who is bearing the burden. In this home rule petition, I'm going to quote, "Any fees must be paid exclusively by the party, either the landlord or tenant, who initially hired and contracted with the licensed broker or agent." So if the renter is struggling to find an apartment and hires a broker, under this home rule petition, the renter pays that. Let me read real briefly. It's very short. The state bill is this short, so you can all see the difference. This is House Bill 449. No licensed real estate broker or other person or entity engaged in the rental or leasing of residential real estate in the Commonwealth as agent of the landowner, landlord, lessor, or sublessor shall demand, receive, or retain any payment, fee, commission, or other charge from a tenant or prospective tenant for any services on behalf of such landowner, landlord, lessor, sublessor, blah, blah, blah. Paragraph 2, no landlord, no landowner, landlord, lessor, or sublessor shall demand or require that a tenant or prospective tenant retain, hire, or engage a rental agent or broker and pay such agent or broker a fee or commission as a condition to applying for or leasing a residential unit in the Commonwealth. And no such landlord, lessor, or sublessor shall demand or require that a tenant or prospective tenant make any payment in violation of subsection B of this act. So I'm going to summarize that. Under this home rule petition, if the renter initiates contact, hires the broker, the renter pays the fee. This is not eliminating the fee. Under the state bills that both the House and the Senate have referred to the conference, which is almost always going to means it's going to go forward. In that case, even if the renter initiates and hires the broker fee goes to the landlord, landowner. That is a significant difference. That means under the state bill, which is not redundant to this home rule petition, and they conflict, under the state bill, if it gets passed, if we pass this home rule petition, it gets approved, they approve the rule, which means when the home rule petition comes back, it becomes an ordinance in Salem. I support the state bill. I support a bill that says no matter what, the renter does not pay the fee. Let's be clear. There's been a lot of misinformation that this home rule petition eliminates the fee for the renter. It does just the opposite. In most cases, the renter will pay the fee. You know, I'm not going to vote to put this in committee because I do not believe that this language is appropriate and good for renters. I think it's anti-renter, and I think that the state bill, we should all be contacting all the people in the conference, in the Joint Committee, our senator, our representative, tell them we want them to pass S224 and H449. That is good for renters. That is good for housing. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Council Davis.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. Just to clarify, I'd be more than supportive of strengthening the language of the home rule petition to more closely match the state language. I think that is better language. I agree with that. And I'm also happy with removing the rule. And I hope that happens in committee.
Councilor Appworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to say the same thing. I think we're all mostly on the same page with this here. I think that this is what committee exists for, to take a look at the language and talk through it in committee. So I'm happy to support it going to committee and having that conversation.
Any further discussion? Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. And that was pretty much what I was going to say. I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate the attention that this is getting. It is a huge barrier. To try to get into a home. It's just unbelievable. It's untenable. And I appreciate Councilor Davis motioning for this to go to committee to work through the language, because as Councilor Cohen said, there's a lot to digest and hash through in this, and you want to get it right. I know we have a crisis, but we do want to get these right. We do want to get the language effective and to have it land most effectively to achieve what we want, which is to get these fees off of renters. So I appreciate it and look forward to the discussion. Again, I'm glad at the state level it's getting attention. I'm glad it's at different Massachusetts cities are talking about this and trying to move on this as well. So I am certainly willing to have this go to committee and have that discussion.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Prosnowski. Yeah, I think we definitely have the consensus that a lot of us here agree with the headline, the top of the story of what the intent of this is. But I also appreciate Councilor Cohen's explanation, because I got sucked into that rabbit hole of home rule petitions today, and why were there different ones, and what did that mean? And I had so many questions for the city solicitor. Putting this in and signing this and sending it away without the conversation, what would the implications of that be? Really need to happen. So I'm looking forward to the conversation in committee.
Councilor Watson-Feld.
I'm so excited. I'm the chair of this committee. I would definitely support this conversation in committee. And I think, what everyone else said, but as the chair, I felt like I had to say something. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilor Cohen.
Yeah, we face this issue about home rule petitions. I'm not a big fan of the process. It took 3 years for us to get the condo conversion regulation back to us. And those are people who are being displaced every single day. And we need to really deal with that. I am not the only one in this body who has talked about this. It rarely is the case that the state law is better than what we're dealing with at the city level. In many cases, we, like the non-discrimination ordinance, we've added things to it, to the state law. In this case, the state law is remarkably good. I'm actually surprised that it would be this strong. And having said that, as a body, we can, I'll vote to put it in committee, and I'll fight for it to reflect the state bill and everything else. I still don't know if the legislature will return it to us. However, it's really important that if we all believe that this is something important, that you need to call the legislature. You can send them emails or whatever. They do pay attention, especially if, when it gets to conference, you can go and look at who's in the conference. It's like, half senators, half representatives. And it's really important. If you really believe that this is important for the renters, people who live in our city, the home rule petition may, be a much slower, awkward process than the legislature passing it on its own. And this looks like it's got really good momentum. Thank you.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you, President. Just listening to this whole conversation and understanding that there's a bill in front of the legislature that's moving along. I'm just wondering if this should rather be a resolution in support of the work going on in the legislature to show that, yes, we in Salem want this bill to pass. I'm not sure the home rule petition, I could see that happening if the bill gets dropped, right, or voted down. But at this point, we want to show that we're in favor of it. And that sounds to me like a resolution in support of that bill, those two bills, the House and the Senate bill. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know if once we send a home rule petition into a committee, we can change it to a resolution, because that's actually the better process. So.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I would just offer, what was kind of expressed to me by the state representative is procedurally, I don't think any of us expect a home rule petition to come back to us before the state goes through their process. The idea is to send a message that we support this. And procedurally, a resolution will be seen, but home rule petition, that committee has to meet and discuss and deal with it, right? So we're forcing a little more attention to it when that happens. So I would just offer that.
Councilor Cohen.
Thank you, President. That is not true. That is not the way it works. There are many home rule petitions that, just like we have stuff in our committees that never get anywhere, never get deliberated on. I'm in full agreement with Councilor Morcillo. I actually think that we could get this process going faster if this home rule petition doesn't go to committee, and I'll work with you on it to have a resolution that comes to the next council meeting that has the language that reflects this, because we have done resolutions where specifically the resolution, it's more work for the city clerk, but we give the city clerk email addresses, whatever, they send it out to the appropriate people. We've sent it to the President of the United States. Okay. I feel like that's a statement we've made. You did a resolution last year. So my feeling is the more powerful, impactful way to go is to do what Councilor Morcillo said, to withdraw this, do for the next meeting on April 10th, do a resolution. We can pass it. It doesn't take 2 votes. Doesn't have to go through committee or anything else. It seems like the consensus of this body is to support a really good bill that will protect renters.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we're having a lot of conversations right now that could be had in committee. This can be changed over to a resolution in committee. It's before us now tonight. We can put it into committee. We can have that conversation. If somebody wants to change it to resolution, we can make that case. If we want to change the language in the home rule petition, we can do that in committee. But my feeling is this is before us now. We should deal with it now and then move from there.
Also, Watson-Feld.
I completely agree. And as chair, I would be willing to, do all of the necessary prep with the city solicitor in advance, even invite her to the meeting so we can talk about legal implications or what might be more effective vis-a-vis the procedure at the state level. And I agree. I think everything that has been said here since Councilor Davis made his motion would be well positioned in a committee meeting. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Councilor Davis's motion to move the matter of the home rule petition to an act requiring broker fees? We move that matter into committee. All those in favor? All those opposed? Maybe.
Point of clarification. There was a vote just taken to send this to the Committee of Economic Development.
Correct.
Or Community and Economic Development. Sounded like there was a point made off mic that this was not co-posted with the Committee of the Whole. If it is Councilor Davis's intention to co-post this, I would be happy to make that motion and we could take a second vote.
Yes, we can.
Or I don't know if a vote can be revised. I don't know how you want to do it.
We can co-post it with.
It was a hand vote that was never recorded, I believe, so we could just.
Okay, I'm going to motion that this be co-posted with the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, once again, on Councilor Davis's motion to move this matter to the Committee of Community and Economic Development, co-posted the Committee of the Whole. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Committee reports. Councilor Merkel.
City of Salem in City Council, March 27th, 2025. The Committee on Administration and Finance, to whom it was referred the matter of appropriation of $25,000 for costs associated with conducting wastewater surveillance for highly pathogenic avian influenza, also known as H5N1 bird flu. This funding would cover 1 year of surveillance and all associated costs for analyzing wastewater samples conducted by BioBot Analytics. Has considered said matter and would recommend leaving this matter in committee.
All those on the acceptance of the report? Under discussion.
Thank you. This request came from our health agent, Dave Greenbaum, and the funds would cover 1 year of surveillance and the costs for analyzing the samples. BioBot Analytics currently tests our wastewater for COVID, which the cost is covered by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the avian flu testing would be added at the city's expense. I had expressed appreciation for our health agent and our mayor thinking proactively about public health. And also, additional information was that no other communities in our area are doing this type of proactive wastewater surveillance for bird flu at this time. So there isn't much data available, and there has been minimal effect in Salem due to the bird flu, and symptoms are flu-like, and there is a lab test for bird flu. And we had a good discussion on this. Dave Greenbaum expressed real concern about this possibly being the next pandemic. And we asked, the council asked if the COVID testing might end, why would, because of financing, if that doesn't continue for the COVID testing, why would we be prioritizing the bird flu testing? And Dave Greenbaum responded that it was because we have a vaccine for COVID and treatments. Also discussed was the idea of registering chickens and animals in Salem, so there could be possible monitoring of the animals for illness. And Dave provided some more information. Essex County, over 18 months, there have been no incidences of bird flu. Nationally, 1 death was reported in Louisiana. We discussed the possibility of teaming up with other cities and towns, and also the concerns moving forward in the cuts we are facing for federal funding for public health. That was discussed. Counselors also asked and requested information and input from our Board of Health, and if we could take an overall more holistic view of the challenges that we are going to be facing in public health. And Dave said there hadn't been a meeting about it, but he had let them know, and they seemed supportive. So the committee landed on Dave Greenbaum letting us know that it could possibly be discussed at a Board of Health meeting on April 8th. They meet the second Tuesday of the month. And the committee voted unanimously to leave this in committee for further info and discussion.
Any further discussion? Councilor Watson-Feld.
Thank you. Councilor Merkel did a wonderful job at recapping the conversation we had nearly immediately before this meeting, so appreciate that. The one thing I wanted to add to that was that I was very surprised to discover that the Department of Wildlife is attributing, in one instance described by Mr. Greenbaum, the death of a large group of birds, wild birds, to being killed by the avian flu, but without actually having that confirmed. So as I understand it, the state has the ability to test this, but kind of just isn't. And so for my part, I thought at this time, we do not have enough data yet statewide countywide to move forward with such an ask. I'm looking forward to more data coming around. I would be, as I stated in that meeting, very supportive of reintroducing the concept of registering your animals, birds specifically, any farm animal here in Salem, so that we have a sense of how many there are, where people are. There's definitely a way, I think, to address this concern and be proactive about it and set ourselves up for better success long term without approving this right now, this cost right now. So yeah, grateful to the conversation, grateful to Mr. Greenbaum, looking forward to hearing more data and hearing what the Board of Health thinks, and thanks to Councilor Merkel for the recap.
Councilor Stott.
Thank you, President Presnowski. Not to reiterate too much of what was said, I would just like to add all of that I think we all definitely have the understanding of Mr. Greenbaum's concern of the next possible pandemic and understand the seriousness of that. I know I'm struggling with wanting to wait for more data where we're literally talking about a test to collect data. So that there's a little bit of a struggle in my brain. But also I feel like Salem is very popular for being the city of first and leading the way. But with the budget constrictions and so many unknowns right now, I do think it's appropriate to wait and get some more insight from the Board of Health and a little more information around the possible state assistance or federal assistance and just the additional issues that we'll be having coming forward. I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation, but I just really did want to reiterate that we're not undermining the seriousness of this topic and what's in front of us, but we just wanted to pause a little bit before saying yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Merkel's motion that this matter remain in committee, all those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Communications from city officials, none. Petitions.
We have a petition from Comcast to install conduits on Federal Street for service at 160 Federal Street.
Hearing ordered on April 10th. Further petitions.
We have a request from Hawk to hold the 33rd Annual Hawk Walk and 5K Run in use of city streets on June 8th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves that these matter be granted under discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just looking forward to this. It's a great event.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of granting the motion to have Hawk move its annual walk? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have the following licenses, applications on this page for limousine, taxi operators, and public guides.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this be granted. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. On Councilor Hapworth's motion, this move be granted. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Further petitions.
We have one public guide license application.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted. I'm sorry. I was on taxi operators.
Yeah, I did all those.
I move this be denied, Mr. President.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this motion be denied. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter carries. Further petitions.
We have 3 claims.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that these be referred to the Committee on Ordinances, Licenses, and Legal Affairs.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this matter go to the Committee on Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Matter carries. Unfinished business.
We have 3.
I'm sorry, further petitions.
We have 3 drain layer contract operator license applications.
Councilor Hapworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this be granted.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this be granted. Under discussion?
No discussion.
Councilor Hapworth moves that this be granted. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carries. Unfinished business. Seeing no unfinished business. Before we adjourn, before we make a motion to adjourn, I'd like to take a matter of personal privilege to have a moment of silence for the Transportation Director's loss of his young wife, Mayor Leslie Kucharski, passed away suddenly last Thursday. Moment of silence. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family, Mr. Kucharski. Council Merkel.
Thank you, President Presnowski. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Council Merkel requested.
No objection.
Seeing no objection.
Thank you. I just want to mention that the Salem Film Festival started tonight and runs through the weekend, salemfilmfest.com. So we're lucky to have that happening in Salem, and there's lots of events. And I saw the trailer reveal party, lots of good stuff out there to check out this weekend. Thank you.
Very good. Council Marcelo.
Thank you, President. I move for adjournment.
So Marcelo moves for adjournment. All those in favor? All those opposed? We are adjourned.